Good afternoon. It's Claire from Wiltshire. I just thought I would bring you along on my 10-minute potter around in the garden this morning. I started with the bird area. I don't put food out anymore in the mornings because it gets all dried up during the day and it's too hot for them. So I put it out around 6 o'clock in the evening when it's cooled down a little bit, and then they tend to come out then and have the food and have a bath and have a drink. The bird bath in the heat obviously doesn't look very nice, so try and give it a scrub every single day. I always pop a stone in the middle for any of the smaller birds or any insects, because the stone does tend to stay quite wet. So that's a really good thing to do if you can do that. Mealworms, seed, porridge oats, those are the kind of things I like to give to the birds, and I do like to change it up a little bit as well. So that was the first thing that I did this morning. Always make sure as well when you're using a hose that the water coming out isn't warm,
Oh,
because it
nice.
warms up very, very quickly in the hose. So I gave the bamboo a little water, even though I've got to pot it up tonight, just because I didn't want it to dry out too much in the day. And there's me showing you some of the work that I have to do in the next couple of weeks. So this probably isn't going to be this week's jobs, but it's going to be next week's jobs because it's going to be quite hot again. I want to do it when it's a lot cooler. So popped into the greenhouse, it was 37 degrees. So made sure the doors and windows were open. Everything that was very dry had a drink. Anything that was still slightly damp, I left that. The peppers I moved up into the sunshine because a lot of the green peppers on there, as you can see, are full size now, so they just need ripening off. So I did all of that. Any of my new seeds which have started to germinate, which I thought were an epic fail, they've been watered. My curly kale, I gave that a really, really good water, and I left it soaking in water as well. So that will be a 100% definite job up at the allotment with the curly kale this week. I will be popping all of that in. The peas and beans are still doing very, very well, considering they don't like to be transplanted. They are absolutely fantastic. I've got one big cucumber left on my cucumber bush, which I will be taking the seeds from for next year. And there's some small ones on there, but it's really straggly looking now, and it's just not looking very good. And even though it's had a good feed, it's still not looking fantastic, to be honest. Then I moved on to the raised beds outside. This one especially gets very, very dry, and I find myself having to water it probably late afternoon and sometimes the evening as well. The sunflowers really do drain the water out of this bed, so it does need a lot of topping up. Definite note to Salve, don't plant the sunflowers in raised beds next year. A little tip for you here, don't do this in the morning, do this in the evening. Have a plank of wood, get it really, really wet, pop it at an angle next to your raised bed, and the slugs and the snails will climb inside of that, on the tilted part. And then in the mornings, when you come along, flip it over, and then you can collect all the snails and slugs. So I did notice when watering my sunflower, not the biggest one, the second biggest one, its roots were exposed, which obviously is not good. And as it was flowering, I didn't want it to die off. So I just grabbed some more compost, popped it over the roots. I didn't re-water it because it's already had a really, really good drink. So I popped that over, and that would keep the moisture in all day, to be honest. I will check later to see if that has worked. But I think the whole bed as a whole needs a bit of a top up. I'm just trying to hold off on doing it purely because of the time of the year that it is. So yeah, so I just did that, a little bit of maintenance, and that's why I like to potter around for 10 minutes in the morning, just to see if anything's changed, anything needs doing, what's happened overnight, did I miss something the day before that needs attention straight away. That's what my 10-minute potters are for. So after that, it was snack time and iced coffee time. I picked a couple of the pear tomatoes off of the plants. They are my favourite, and I had them for a snack. At this point, it was 34 degrees outside. It was really hot. So I wanted to cool off next to my water feature there. I have changed the top of the water feature. It was on a fountain, but every time you sat down, you got absolutely soaking wet. So I've changed it to just like a slight little puff. I don't know what you would call it. Squirt. Um, So it was nice and relaxed in there. I had my sun hat on just to protect my face a little bit. That's the beauty of the tomato inside. I mean, never in my life would I ever thought I would go into my garden and pick a tomato, let alone munch on it, you know, without salt or anything else. But this plant really doesn't need it. It's absolutely gorgeous for snacks. And just pick them straight off and eat them as soon as they're yellow. Have a really good eat of them. They are just a brilliant snack. And then I just went around my large garden bed and watered any areas that were really dry. Some were absolutely fine, some were very dry. It all depends on the stage of the plants that you've got in your vegetable patch. I always say, don't just put your finger in one area, put your finger in everywhere. Finally, onto the tomatoes. At the weekends, I always feed the tomatoes. I use a tomato feed and eggshells. So, like I said, every weekend I feed the tomatoes. Every third day I water the tomatoes. I've been collecting my eggshells. I collect them all year long because I use them for a variety of different things in the garden. You can blend them up. I normally blend them up in my little Ninja, but I just wanted to show you that if you don't have gadgets to be able to do it, just a pestle and mortar, or even a slab in your garden with a brick or a rock, crunch them all up, and then you can add them straight onto your tomato plant and then water with the feed on top. Don't do what I did in this video and put the actual eggshells into the watering can just for them to sit in the watering can. Even the best of us make mistakes. It was early in the morning. I'd not had the best night's sleep. I've been woken up many times by the dog, who's not very well at the moment and is waking up every 2 hours to bark to be let out. And that's my excuse. That is what I'm staying with, and that is what I'm going with. So you'll have to bear with me on that one. So I'm just showing you there. Like, so that's about halfway through. It's already quite small, but if you can grind it up to almost like a powder, then that is ideal. When I plant my tomato plants, I always have 1 cup under each plant of grounded up eggshells, and then I pop the plant on top, and then the soil and everything else and any bloodfish and bone on top of that with the basil and the marigolds. So that is what I have done with every single tomato plant, and I have had a win with all of them. I've had no blossom end rot. I've had no damage. The leaves haven't curled, they haven't wilted. The tomatoes are in really good condition. You know, some of them have got slight marks on them, but that's to be expected because I did go off probably last month a little bit with the watering. I wasn't doing it as regular and I kept forgetting. So having a calendar in your greenhouse would be a good idea, and it just reminds you, right, it's been 3 days, need to water them. Plus the weather, you know, we had all this really hot weather and then it went a little bit mild. Now it's getting hot again. Whilst in the process of pruning my tomatoes, I did accidentally snap the string on the final one, and instead of resetting it all back up, all I did was I tied it onto the one beside it, which had a few less tomatoes on because I'd been picking that one quite a lot, and I just wrapped it around and it was all done. So this is my carrot and my spinach pot, my little trial, because me and carrots, we don't mix. It was really dry, so overnight it had really dried out, which was a bit scary. So I moved it into a more shady position in the garden once I could find a flat surface. I gave it a really good water, and tonight when it cools down I will definitely be thinning the spinach and the carrots out because there is a lot in there. And then I will probably mulch it a little bit just to keep it quite moist. Finally, given the basil, again in this area, it was quite warm, so I just moved it to where the shade will come in a little bit faster. As much as basil does like the heat and the sun, it does scorch the leaves a little bit, and I don't want scorched leaves when I'm making pesto. So I gave this one a really good water until I could see it coming out the bottom of the pot. And as you can see in the background, I've got a little bit of everything there. I really want to spend the day clearing that area, and I think it will make my mind feel a lot clearer. Thank you for watching.